Nina Banujiag, it is time for literacy, and the book that I picked out for you today is called The Ant Bully. And this book was written and illustrated by John Nichol. So he wrote the words and drew the pictures. And the reason I picked this book for you today is because it goes with our grandfather teaching of the week, which is respect. Something we haven't talked about yet. Respect calls for us as Ojibwe people to stand together. And I don't mean like, I'm going to stand right here and you are going to stand right next to me. We're going to be so close together, we're standing together. Stand together has more to do with uniting as a community and choosing to take care of each other and do the right thing so that we can all live our best lives together. And one way that we do that is we need to act responsibly and with care. So being responsible and careful with yourself, with others, and with the environment, all of the spaces that you move through, inside, outside, at home, at school, all of those things. And what does that mean to act responsibly and to care? Well, let's get started with our book and see if that doesn't help us put some things into perspective. All right, so without further ado, here's your story, The Ant Bully. The Ant Bully. Lucas wore funny glasses and a strange hat. Some kids thought he was weird. Sid, the neighborhood bully, was especially mean to him. Yikes. So Lucas bullied the ants. Oh, and those ants didn't like to get wet. And soon they had had enough. Gosh, look at them all over him. Yuck! Let that be a lesson to you. Do not squirt water at ants. With great skill and team effort, they stuffed Lucas's large body into their ant hole and forced him into the Queen's chambers. Coolly, she looked him over. So you are the one who always floods my colony. Don't you realize how long and hard we work to build what you destroy in seconds? Oh, it's not looking good for Lucas. Lucas was too stunned to respond. The Queen took his silence as a further insult. She went to the ant wizard and said, "Shrink this boy and put him on trial." Uh-oh. Oh my gosh, look at that judge ant with the wig. Guilty, thundered the judge. And Lucas's sentence was harsh. A sentence means the punishment you're going to get once you've been found guilty of doing your crime. Oof. He was given hard labor with the worker ants. Ugh, look at him just sweating. He's toiling. Ooh, gathering food, too. Look at his face. It's probably way too heavy for him. And defending the colony against wasps. Ew. Can you imagine how big the stinger would be if you were the size of an ant? It's terrifying. I'm going to say I don't care for that. I imagine Lucas does not either. and defending it against spiders. But the worst part of his sentence was attending the queen with her drones. Oh, well, it's the queen. Gotta do what she says, right? Goodness. She's watching TV. The queen, however, was pleased and told Lucas that she would set him free if he passed one final test. You must go home, and you must bring me a red swell gel. But I'll need help, Lucas pleaded. We ants always work together. How else could we gather food and defend ourselves and please our queen? The queen smiled and said, Take Speedy and Renee with you. They are upstairs. Oh my gosh, did you hear what Lucas said? He's talking like he is one of the ants. Interesting. Forming community, standing together to get food, defend the colony, take care of the queen. Community is a powerful thing. As they waited for the cover of night, the two ants had many questions for their new friend. What was it like to be a giant? Asked Speedy. Were you the biggest giant? Renee wanted to know. Oh, I was no giant, replied Lucas. Not compared with Sid the bully. He was always stealing my hat and spraying me with the hose. Oh, like you did to us, said Speedy and Renee together. After an awkward silence, the three of them set out for Lucas's house. When the last light was turned off, they quietly snuck into the kitchen to find the red swell gel. Look at their little gummy candies. But just as they were about to make off with their prize, bright lights flashed and a booming voice filled the room. Ants! Lucas's father bellowed. Uh-oh, big ol' swatter. Now what are they gonna do? No! Lucas yelled. His father stopped and looked closer. Oh my gosh. Lucas jumped at his father's face so that Speedy and Renee could escape. Oh, he's fighting for his community. Taking care of his fellow ants. Well, back at the colony, the queen was very, very sad. Speedy and Renee had returned, but not Lucas. Then, to her delight, Lucas arrived. The queen said, Young man, you have been so brave, and you have learned the ways of the ants well. Your courage will be rewarded. She told the ant wizard to fill his dropper with growth potion. Wow, can you believe it? Lucas went from flooding their colony with water to risking his life to save two ants. Man. Well, the wizard trickled potion drops in Lucas's ear until he slowly fell asleep. The ants laid him outside in the tall, soft grass, and the next morning, Lucas awoke to an alarming sight. Dun, dun, dun! It was Sid, the bully! But the ants had seen Sid coming first. There's Lucas's little ant buddies, and look, look, look. Looks like somebody else got given a little taste of shrink potion. The end. So, we show respect to each other people by listening to them with our hearts, not just our ears. And respect can mean asking for permission before doing something that affects others. Respect can mean accepting it when somebody tells us no as an answer, even if it's not the answer we want. And sometimes respect can be apologizing when we hurt someone. Now, I know in the story, Lucas didn't exactly apologize to the ants, but once they found him guilty, he worked really hard and he did his best to make up for what he had done. And I'm curious if you could have talked to Lucas before his misadventure with the ants. If you could have talked to him about community and about standing together, what might you have said to him? Giving him some kind and caring words and actions that he could do. Because I don't think that Lucas hated the ants. I don't think that's why he would spray them with water and flood their colony. I think that because Lucas was being bullied by Sid, he felt icky inside. And sometimes when that happens to us, we can't help but put icky stuff out into the universe. When we get treated and it makes us feel icky, sometimes we end up doing that to other people. Sometimes we want to, sometimes we don't mean to, but it happens. So I thought you could write one thing that you would say to Lucas. Tell him why it's important to be respectful and to be kind. Even though they were just little ants and he didn't know them at first and he didn't care about them. What would you tell Lucas about being respectful? So, something to tell Lucas. And I would start with respect. Respect is important. And important. Respect is importance. You can show. You can show respect by I. And look at that. It's that Y pretending to be the long I. By. So what would you tell Lucas? You can imagine that here's you, and you're having your talk with your friend Lucas, who wears his hat that that bully picked on him for. Oh, and his glasses. Because Lucas did learn his lesson, but boy, that was a harsh lesson. If you could help him out so he didn't have to get, shrunk down and brought into the colony and put through a trial and then being made to serve out a sentence, what would you say to him? Respect is important. And you can show respect by what? What's something you would tell Lucas to do? If you write this out on a piece of paper, take a picture of it and put it on Seesaw for me, or draw it right in the Seesaw app. But all right, that's our story for today. I love you, I miss you, and I'll see you in another video again real soon.